You think burning joss paper is just a comforting ritual for the dead. Think ghost markets are mere folk tales. The price they demand might shatter everything you believe. Now step into that rainy night, into the eyes of a ghost vendor, and see what unspeakable rules lurk behind this life-saving medicine bought with joss paper. You burst into the downpour, clutching your feverish daughter. A white lantern hanging in a ruined temple draws you into the ghost market. The medicine you buy with paper money really does bring her fever down. But when she wakes, she craves raw meat. She fears the sun. You steal a bronze bell from an ancient tomb to banish evil. Instead, your daughter becomes a full-blown monster. In your despair, the pawnshop owner bares his fangs. Her time was up. You used joss paper to force fate to change. You douse yourself in lamp oil and hurl your burning body toward her. As the flames consume you, you hear her cry out, "Daddy," for the first time. Cold rain lashes your face. It stings, but not like the searing pain of the tiny flame in your arms. Yaya burns like a piece of red-hot coal, numbing your arms. Every ragged, fragile breath of hers is a dull knife slicing through your heart. The town physician cowers behind his doorboard, offering only one cloudy eye and a line colder than the rain: "Prepare for the worst." Those 3 words stab into your skull like a red-hot iron spike. Prepare for the worst? Yaya is only 5. Her eyes turn into little crescents when she laughs. She calls you Daddy, in that sweet, milky voice, and clumsily wipes your sweat with her tiny hands. Prepare for the worst? A guttural growl escapes your throat. You spin around, clutching the burning little body, and charge into the downpour outside. Where are you going? You don't know. One thought rages in your head. Don't stop. If you stop, Yaya's gone. Mud splashes underfoot. Rain soaks through your collar and your thin clothes. But no chill can quench the despair blazing through your organs. Darkness presses in from all sides like thick ink. In the distance, flashes of lightning briefly sketch out the jagged shapes of wild hills and barren mountains. Just as your strength gives out and your legs feel like they're filled with lead, a faint glow suddenly pierces through the curtain of rain. Not warm lights from a home, but 2 ghostly white lanterns swaying in the wind beneath the crumbling eaves of a mountain temple. The white light is ghastly, swinging like the empty gaze of the dying. Maybe it's fate. Maybe it's despair itself dragging your feet forward. The temple door is half collapsed, its yawning mouth like a beast ready to devour. Clutching Yaya, you stumble across the rotting threshold. A mix of ancient dust, decaying wood, and a cold, sickly, sweet stench rushes your nose. The temple is empty. In the dark, the broken idol is just a vague, grotesque silhouette. You slide down against the cold wall, holding Yaya tight, trying to warm her with your own body. Your teeth chatter, her breathing grows weaker. Her little face has turned ashen in the faint light. "Yaya, don't sleep. Look at Daddy," you whisper hoarsely, your voice breaking into the wind and rain. Just as your consciousness begins to freeze from the cold and despair, a strange sensation grips you. The temple it's glowing? Not from the lanterns, but a pale, eerie green light spreading with no warning, as if rising from the depths of the earth. At the same time, an unsettling tide of sound rolls in whispers, haggling voices, sharp scraping, and faint crying and laughter. The sounds intertwine, forming a hair-raising background hum. You jerk your head up. The back wall of the temple, half collapsed before, is gone. In its place is a twisted, endless alleyway. Cramped, crooked stalls crowd both sides, each lit by the same deathly white lanterns. Shadowy people drift in and out, their movements stiff, silent. They pick things up, drop joss paper, and walk away in eerie silence. The stalls offer things you can't even identify: faded fabrics, bizarre paper effigies, vessels made from who knows what. The air is thick with the cold, sweet stench, laced with ash and wet earth. Ghost market. The phrase stabs your mind like a shard of ice. Your blood freezes. You want to run, to hold Yaya tight and flee. But your legs won't budge. Her fevered forehead presses against your icy neck. That barely there breath, it's the last straw. It crushes your fear. Save her, even if this place is hell. Like a puppet on invisible strings, you step forward, rigidly, into the green glowing street. The stone road is slick and cold beneath your feet. Each step walks the line between illusion and reality. The others, those stiff figures, don't seem to notice you. They just go about their silent trades. You don't dare look at their faces. With the corner of your eye, you search desperately. A pharmacy. You need to find a pharmacy. You walk forever, or so it feels, until despair starts to crush your chest again. Then you spot a tiny stall in an obscure corner. Just a tattered cloth on the ground. No paper crafts or cloth scraps. Just some twisted, strange colored herbs and a few rough ceramic bottles. The vendor crouches deep in the shadows, wrapped in a massive, tattered black cloak. Only one withered claw of a hand rests on their knee. You nearly throw yourself at the stall, knees slamming into the cold, wet stone. You don't even notice the pain. Medicine! Please, I need medicine. My daughter! You cry out, your voice shrill and hopeless, shattering the silence of the market. The figure in the shadows slowly lifts its head. Beneath the hood, there's nothing but pitch-black darkness. Two faint green dots flicker where eyes should be. The claw-like hand slowly rises, points at Yaya in your arms, then slowly toward the grimmiest, most unremarkable ceramic bottle on the cloth. The bottle has no markings. How much? A voice rasps, dry, brittle, like dead leaves dragged across stone. The sound doesn't come from the air. It digs straight into your mind. Money? Money? You frantically search your pockets. Empty. After days chasing doctors, you've spent everything. Your eyes flood with panic. Sweat and rain blur your vision. Then you spot a few yellow slips half buried in the mud beside the stall joss paper. The same kind those shadowy figures were using to trade. A mad thought seizes you. You scramble on hands and knees, grabbing at the least damaged, least muddied pieces. The paper feels rough and cold, reeking of earth and ash. You tremble, holding the joss paper like the last treasure on earth, and offer it to the clawed hand. Will this do? Please, save my daughter! Your voice cracks, filled with sobs and desperation. The two green lights under the hood pause just for a beat. The withered claw reaches out. Its icy, rigid fingers graze your skin, sending chills through your bones. It takes the muddy paper without looking and tucks it into a wide sleeve. Then the other hand slowly pinches the filthy bottle and offers it to you. No words, no promises, just a silent trade. You snatch the bottle, yank out the dirty wooden stopper. A thick, indescribable stench bursts out: rotting roots, old blood, and a strange, cloying sweetness. Inside is a thick, nearly black liquid. No hesitation. You pry open Yaya's burning mouth and pour it all in. The viscous black liquid slides down her throat. Her tiny body jerks, then lets out a weak, dying animal whimper. Your heart clenches with that sound. Right then, the entire ghost market shudders violently. The white lanterns swing like mad. The green glow ripples like water shattered by a thrown stone twisting, breaking apart. The stiff, moving figures blurred, and the whispers and scraping sounds suddenly spiked into a chaotic, piercing shriek that stabbed your eardrums with pain. Was it collapsing or vanishing? You curled up in terror, clutching Yaya, shielding her with your body. The fragments of light and shadow spun wildly, yanked at your vision. The dizziness was so overwhelming you nearly threw up. Just when your consciousness was about to be shredded by the chaos, everything sound, light, motion snapped away. Silence. Cold, sticky, suffocating silence wrapped around you. Your eyes snapped open. Freezing cold crept up from beneath you. The ruined temple. Still the same mountain shrine. Outside, the storm raged on. Rain lashed the broken doors and windows with sharp cracks. The white lantern still hung from the eaves, glowing faintly normal now. The gaping hole in the back wall yawned in front of you. Beyond it was a thick, impenetrable night in the wilderness. That twisted green-lit street, those stiff figures, the chilling trades, had it all been a nightmare born of desperation? You looked down. Yaya was still burning hot. Her face was deathly pale under the dim lantern light. That filthy, coarse clay bottle pressed cold and real between your palm and her waist. The sour, sweet stench of rot and blood still clung to its mouth, burrowing into your nose. It wasn't a dream. You had really fed her that stuff. Panic gripped you like a vice. What had you done? What had you given your daughter? Trembling, you reached to pry open her mouth, to get that vile thing out, but just then, a soft, almost inaudible moan escaped from her throat. You froze, trembling. Then you felt it, the blazing heat radiating from her tiny body was ebbing, not vanishing all at once, but slowly, steadily, like the tide receding. The kind of fever that could sear skin was retreating, no doubt about it. You held your breath, not daring to blink, staring at her little face. That deathly gray was being wiped away, like rubbed-out chalk, replaced with a faint, frail flush of living warmth. Her furrowed brows relaxed slightly. Her eyes stayed shut. But her breathing, though still shallow, grew steady. Inhale, exhale. Each breath brushed warm and damp across your wrist. It was like a drowning person finally grabbing a lifeline. The tension in your nerves snapped like overstretched thread. A flood of sheer, overwhelming joy surged through you, washing away fear and reason alike. You hugged Yaya's tiny body so tightly, your rough cheek pressed to her cool little forehead. Hot tears poured from your eyes, mingling with the rain, dripping onto her pale cheeks. Yaya, Yaya, you murmured brokenly, your voice choked and hoarse. The ghost market, the joss paper, the terrifying medicine, all those horrors were swept away by this one miraculous joy your daughter was alive. As the rain began to ease and a faint, gray light crept into the sky, you staggered back to town, clutching the now conscious Yaya, who occasionally opened her eyes with a weak whimper. You returned to your broken, four-walled house. Old Zhao next door heard the noise, peeked out in his nightclothes, and nearly popped his eyeballs when he saw Yaya not only awake, but visibly no longer dying. "Oh, my lord! What?" He wrung his hands, glancing at your soaked, ragged self, whose face now glowed with a strange light, then at your child, who was clearly recovering. "Did you find some divine healer?" You just held Yaya tighter, a twisted smile, half joy, half lingering terror on your exhausted face. Yeah, I did," you mumbled. But deep down, the memory of that ghost market, the eerie green glow and the icy feel of the paper money sat like a heavy lump of ice beneath the joy. You didn't dare think too hard, you just held Yaya tighter. That first wave of elation slowly settled, giving way to a darker, deeper fear. Yaya's fever was gone. Yes, but she had become disturbingly quiet. Her once bright, grape-like eyes often stared blankly at the cobwebs on the ceiling or fixated on some shadow in the corner, as if something unseen lurked there. She rarely cried or babbled for your attention like before. When you fed her rice soup, she swallowed mechanically, her gaze drifting. What truly chilled you was her reaction to light. Whenever the noon sun streamed through the broken lattice window, even a single ray, if it touched her, she'd recoil like scalded, curling up with a whimper of fear, burying herself into your chest, her tiny body trembling until you frantically blocked the light with a blanket or your body. She began to sleep constantly, almost all day. Only at night did she show a trace of wakefulness, but her gaze remained hollow, her silence unbearable. You told yourself it was post-illness fatigue, but the weight in your chest grew heavier and colder until that evening. You had just brought over a bowl of thin rice gruel you'd struggled to make. Yaya was blankly staring at a bug crawling in the corner. Suddenly, she moved without warning. Her tiny body exploded with speed and strength you'd never seen before, lunging toward the small, battered stool by the bed. On that stool were 2 finger-sized live fish you'd just caught by the river, meant for soup. They still twitched weakly. You couldn't react in time. Yaya snatched one up a fish, still struggling, and without hesitation, without childish curiosity, she opened her mouth, flashed her baby teeth, and bit down hard, like a tiny predator. Crunch. The sickening crunch echoed in the silent room. Warm fish blood dripped from the corner of her mouth, streaking down her chin and staining her shirt. Her face was expressionless, but in those hollow eyes, a flicker of something passed. Something faint, but it froze your blood. Satisfaction. "Yaya!" you screamed, voice ripping through the air. The bowl fell from your hands and shattered. Gruel splattered across the floor. You lunged at her, desperately prying at her fingers to snatch away the mauled fish. But her tiny body exploded with terrifying strength. She growled from her throat, clutching the corpse with all her might. Her bloodied mouth snapped toward your hand like an animal. Her empty eyes now burned with raw, bestial aggression. Fear, pure, icy terror slithered into your chest like a nest of vipers, choking your breath. You stumbled back, staring at the unfamiliar creature before you, blood on her lips, violence in her eyes. Your daughter, unrecognizable. That cursed medicine from the ghost market, every terrifying memory you'd tried to suppress came rushing back, crashing over you in this blood-soaked nightmare. No, this can't go on. There must be a way. Exorcism, that's it. She must be possessed. That cursed ghost market brought something evil back. That thought became your last hope. You clung to it. You remembered something years ago. The village shaman once said ancient tombs, especially those with buried bronze, held talismans against evil. Copper bells, that's what you needed. Your eyes darted to the darkness outside. A mad plan, born of despair, took shape. Go to the back hill, to the grave field full of old tombs. Somewhere among the noble graves of the past dynasty, there must be a copper bell buried with the dead. You grabbed the half-empty bottle of cheap baijiu left at home, chugged it in burning gulps. The heat scorched your throat but didn't touch the chill in your bones. Still, it gave you a false, reckless courage. You tied Yaya down gently, almost like binding her to the bed. She'd fallen into another deep sleep after devouring raw fish. Dried blood still clung to her mouth. Your hands trembled violently. You cast one last glance at her pale, unfamiliar face. Then you grabbed the chipped machete from the corner and plunged into the night, thick, suffocating. The grave field, under the faint moon, looked like a massive, festering wound. The crooked tombstones jutted like fangs. Knee-high weeds rustled in the wind like whispers of the dead. The air reeked of wet earth, rotting plants, and something colder, something unnameable. Every step on the soft, spongy dirt made your skin crawl. You couldn't shake the feeling that a cold hand might grab your ankle at any moment. Guided only by vague memory, you stumbled deeper into the field, toward the more impressive section of old tombs. Fear coiled around your heart like frostbitten vines. Each heartbeat pounded heavy in your chest. Finally, you saw it, a massive tomb. The headstone cracked and crumbling, the mound overgrown with thorny vines. Faint characters on the gravestone hinted at the dead man's past glory, but now it was just dust and decay. This was it. You spat out the root you'd been chewing. The shaman said it masked living scent, dropped the machete, and began digging with trembling hands. The soil was damp and freezing. Your nails tore and bled, mixing with mud, but you felt no pain. One thought screamed in your head. The bell! Find the copper bell! Save Yaya! You didn't know how long you dug. Sweat, blood, and dirt covered your face. Then your fingers hit something cold and solid. Not stone! Your heart leapt. You clawed faster. A small, mud-covered bronze object emerged, rusty, ancient, shaped like a bell. Strange, faded markings carved into its surface shimmered faintly under the moonlight. You found it! Your heart pounded as you clutched it tightly in your hand. The cold metal sent a chill through your palm, heavy with the scent of damp earth and a centuries-old, bone-deep chill. You didn't stop to inspect it, just shoved it into the innermost pocket of your shirt like a life-saving charm. The cold bronze pressed against your burning skin and made you shiver. Grabbing the machete, you stumbled and crawled your way out of the deathly silent graveyard, running blindly. Your lungs burned with every breath. By the time you burst through the front door, dawn had just begun to pale the sky. The house was deathly quiet. Yaya still lay bound to the bed, seemingly asleep. You rushed to her side, fumbling in the dim light from the window, pulling out the muddy, icy, cold bell. Its surface was crusted with green rust, deep cracks winding across it. The clapper inside was long gone, leaving only an empty shell, but the cold aura it emitted had only grown stronger. Yaya, Daddy found it. An exorcist's treasure. It's over. You're gonna be okay now, you cried incoherently, your voice hoarse and shaking. You wiped the grime from the bell with trembling hands, then raised it high and, using every last ounce of strength, shook it hard over your sleeping daughter. No clear chime rang out, only a dull, rasping grind, like rusted metal scraping across gravel. Creak! The harsh sound pierced the silent morning like a jagged blade. And the instant that sound rang out, Yaya's eyes snapped open. No longer hollow, they filled with a web of crimson veins like a spider's nest. The whites turned blood red. Her pupils shrank to 2 needle-point dots, burning with savage, explosive fury. Her tiny body surged with inhuman strength. The cloth tying her down tore like rotted straw. A low snarl burst from her throat, no longer a child's voice, but something feral and vicious. Like an enraged cub, she dropped to all fours, lunging at your raised arm with unnatural speed in a gust of fetid wind. You had no time to react. Pain exploded in your forearm, a sharp chill, followed by searing agony. Yaya's little mouth stretched impossibly wide, revealing unnaturally sharp teeth that sank deep into your flesh. Warm blood gushed out instantly. Ah, you screamed as the bronze bell clattered to the ground. Driven by instinct and pain, you flung your arm with all your might. Shh! The sound of flesh tearing made your scalp go numb. Yaya flew across the room and slammed into the mud wall with a dull thud. In her mouth was a chunk of raw, bloody meat ripped straight from your arm. She casually shook her head, letting the flesh drop to the floor. Then she lifted her blood-smeared face, those red eyes locked on you. A low growl rumbled from her throat. Her lips curled into a predatory snarl, revealing blood-stained fangs. Thick saliva mixed with blood dripped down her chin. That look, it was a predator eyeing its prey. Nothing remained of the daughter you knew. It was over. Completely over. A flood of despair crashed over you, cold and all-consuming. Exorcism? You'd brought her a death sentence. You'd shoved your own daughter into the abyss. You looked at your bleeding arm, the hunk of torn flesh on the floor, the small figure now fully a bloodthirsty beast. Every ounce of strength, every last hope drained from you. Your legs gave out. You collapsed to the floor, back against the cold wall. Pain and despair blurred your vision. Just before darkness swallowed your sight, the old wooden door creaked open. A figure appeared silently in the doorway, blocking the dim light of dawn. It was the pawnshop owner from the west end of town, Chen the Cripple. He usually slouched with a polished cane, wearing a sly, detached smile. But now, his face was expressionless, his spine perfectly straight. He held the cane loosely at his side. What truly froze your blood was his eyes, usually half-lidded and shrewd, now fully open. Even the whites shimmered faintly with an eerie, inhuman green. He stepped inside without a sound, gaze sweeping from the bloody chunk on the floor to your bleeding arm, and finally settling on Yaya, crouched in the corner, growling with bared teeth. No shock in his eyes, only cold, knowing clarity. He spoke at last. Gone was his usual smooth tone. His voice was dry, flat, each word dragged out like from an ice cellar. You dared touch things from the tomb. That thing reeked of curses and decay. You can smell it 10 miles upwind. Even the living would fall sick from it. And she, he paused. His green gaze landed on you, tinged with pity but more with cold disdain. She was never meant to stay in this world. Not meant to stay, you repeated dully, slumped in the dirt, the pain in your arm now numb. The words echoed like icy nails in your heart. Chen the Cripple, or whatever was wearing his skin, curled his lips into a slow, cruel smile, revealing just the tips of unnaturally sharp canines. What did you think the ghost market was? A charity? His flat, brittle voice chilled you to the bone. That medicine, it wasn't a miracle. It was a toll. You used paper meant for the dead to forcefully buy borrowed time that never belonged to her. His bony finger pointed at Yaya, still growling in the corner. Even she seemed unnerved by this Chen. Her snarling softened, her body shrinking back slightly, and for the first time, fear flickered behind those blood-red eyes. Her time was already up, Chen said, with grim finality. That fever was fate. And you, using that cursed, grave-soaked joss paper, forced the ghost market to sell you one last breath. She's a corpse now. Not living. Not dead. That medicine full of resentful energy is all that holds her faint soul together. She feeds on life, hates the sun, hungers for blood. That's the price of defying fate. Each word was a red-hot hammer pounding your nerves. Her time had ended. A corpse. You had rewritten her fate. You trembled violently, not with fear, but crushing despair, crushing guilt. It wasn't a demon haunting her. It was you. You'd bought her this horror with cursed money from the grave. No, your voice rasped like a bellows, tears streaming down your face, mixing with dirt and blood. I didn't know, I only wanted to save her. The remorse was tearing you apart. Save her? Chen scoffed, cold and sharp as cracked ice. You doomed her. And yourself. The evil energy inside her is growing. Soon, she'll lose even that last thread of soul. She'll become a pure beast of slaughter. And you, his glowing eyes swept over your bloodied arm. You were bitten. The venom's in your blood. Within 7 days, you'll become one of them. A corpse puppet. There'll be no coming back for either of you. 7 days. Corpse puppet. No return. The words exploded in your skull, painting visions of hell Yaya, a mindless killer. You, a walking corpse that tears flesh by instinct. No, no. You raised your head. Bloodshot eyes locked on Chen, a last spark of hope burning through despair. You showed up. You know the ghost market. You must have a way. Please. I'll do anything. Take my life. Take my soul. Please, save her. You tried to crawl and kneel before him, but pain and exhaustion pinned you to the ground. You stretched out your good arm in desperation, like a drowning man grabbing at driftwood. Chen's glowing eyes looked down at you, cold, deep as a frozen pond without a flicker of warmth. His gaze lingered on your tear-streaked, mud-covered face, then shifted to Yaya in the corner, restless, growling. And for a fleeting moment, a strange glint passed through his eyes, something ancient, inscrutable, a flicker of calculation, or was it something long buried and almost human? Away, he said at last. His dry voice echoed oddly, as if from across eternity. Can you afford the price? Yes, anything. I can pay anything. You screamed, clutching that shred of hope like your last breath. Chen was silent for a moment. The ruined house held only Yaya's restrained snarls and your ragged breathing. Then he spoke again, voice lower, heavier with finality. Her body now holds a blood curse, a soul of wrath fused with ancient tomb resentment and the Bell's curse. To purge that wrath, there's only one way. Burn it away with pure, blazing vitality life essence from bloodkin, freely given. Your soul, your life. Fuel for the fire of return. He pointed at the corner, at an old, cracked oil lamp covered in dust. Soak the wick with blood of closest kin. Light it. Hold her close. Walk into the flame together. When it ignites, her curse will burn. If your heart is pure enough, your will resolute enough, you might preserve her faint soul in that blaze and send her to reincarnation. Spare her from eternal destruction. And you, his ghost-green gaze stabbed into your eyes like icy needles. Your soul will scatter, your body turn to ash. No reincarnation, oblivion for all eternity. Fire of return. Soul obliteration, eternal erasure. Each word burned with finality, each colder than death. The air froze. Silence crushed you like a tombstone. In the corner, Yaya seemed to sense something, the growls in her throat sharpened. Her crimson eyes locked on Chen, then flicked to you, filled with a restless, violent unease. Soul obliteration, eternal erasure. This was the price. Trade your entire existence for a chance? Just a chance that Yaya's fragmented soul could enter reincarnation? Was it worth it? 1,000 thoughts slammed through your mind. Her wailing newborn cries, the warmth of her stumbling into your arms, the way she called Daddy with a baby's lilt, her fevered body, the blood on her mouth as she ate raw fish, the crimson, feral look in her eyes. You. It was all because of you. Your foolish fatherly love. You bought her this monstrous, half-dead state with joss paper soaked in grave soil. It was the stolen bell that shoved her off the cliff. If anyone deserved damnation, eternal torment, it was you. Not her. Never her. A flood of heat surged through you, wiping away doubt, fear, resentment. It wasn't despair. It was something heavier than despair, more final than death atonement. Your face, smeared with blood and tears, twisted into a grotesque expression, part laughter, part sob. You didn't look at Chen anymore. Your eyes locked on that dusty, dried-out lamp in the corner. "All right," you rasped, voice calm, too calm. It rang with the weight of finality. You pushed yourself upright on your good arm, staggering to your feet. Blood dripped from your torn left arm, blooming into dark red flowers in the mud. You ignored Yaya's sudden, threatening growl behind you. One step, another. Staggering, but determined, you walked toward the broken oil lamp. Every step was a thorn in the path of self-destruction. In Chen's glowing eyes, that strange, complex light flickered again. He said nothing, just stepped aside slightly as if a silent judge watching your trial. You reached the wall, bent down, and with trembling, blood-caked fingers, picked up the cold, heavy lamp. The lamp was thick with dust, its wick shriveled and black. You cradled it in your arms like a holy relic. Then you turned, dragging your broken body toward the snarling little monster cowering in the corner. Her eyes still glowed red. Your blood stained her fangs. Her tiny frame coiled, ready to strike, but deep in those bloodshot depths, was that a flicker? Something faint and confused, buried under all the terror and madness? "Yeah," you called her softly, brokenly. The sound was a sigh, warm and sorrowful. "It's okay now. Daddy's here. Daddy's taking you home." "Hurrah!" she answered with a wild, warning snarl, lunging forward, ready to attack. And in that split second, you used every last shred of strength to hurl the heavy oil lamp straight at her. Thump! It didn't hit. She twisted away with beastly reflexes. But that was never your real target. As the lamp left your hand, you threw yourself forward like a moth to flame. Arms wide, you wrapped your daughter's thrashing, snarling, cold in blood, reeking little body in a crushing embrace. "Ya!" The cry tore from your throat like blood. Your right hand flashed to your waist, drew the chipped machete and slashed down your already bleeding left arm. Shh! A torrent of scalding, fresh blood burst from the wound, not drops, fountains. Hot, pulsing with life, your blood rained over the lamp on the floor, its wick now upright. The shriveled thread soaked it up instantly, saturating with crimson life. Blood beaded and spilled over the edges, staining the mud a blinding scarlet. Yaya, drenched in your blood, froze. Her howl turned into a shriek so sharp it seemed to pierce your skull. She thrashed wildly. Her tiny form writhed with monstrous strength. Claws tore your chest. Teeth sank into your shoulder. The pain was unbearable, but you held on. Arms locked like iron. "Daddy's taking you home," you whispered, cheek pressed to her cold, bloodied face. Hot tears and blood slid down her forehead. Your voice cracked, soft and final, a sacred lullaby of sorrow. Your left hand, shaking, reached into your clothes. Found it your old flint striker, worn smooth over the years. Cold, heavy, fire. Your gaze passed over her writhing head, fixing on the lamp soaked in your blood. A plump drop of blood clung to the wick, glowing strangely in the morning light. Her fangs were buried deep in your flesh. Pain made your vision pulse. You tore the striker open. Snick! A spark bloomed in the dark. A flicker, weak but hot enough to burn the world. It fell toward the lamp, soaked in the blood of kin. And just as that spark touched the saturated wick with your daughter biting, clawing, you hurled yourself down like a meteor, right onto that glimmer of light, onto the lamp that held your final hope. Boom! No slow burn, no warning. The moment your body and Yaya's touched the blood-drenched wick, a blinding white fire exploded like a sleeping sun. Everything disappeared into light. The light had no heat, or maybe heat beyond comprehension. It didn't burn your flesh, it incinerated your soul. A pain beyond pain ravaged you from within. Not just physical, not even spiritual. It tore at the very fibers of your existence, ripping and purifying. Ah, a scream burst from your throat. Inhuman, shrill, desperate. It wasn't your voice. It was your soul screaming as it was torn apart. And in that final moment of sensation, you felt the tiny body writhing in your arm suddenly go still in the blaze. That foul, icy, bloody stench around her evaporated like frost under the sun. You heard it, like 10,000 angry ghosts melting. Crimson veins burned in her eyes like iron wire. Her twisted little face contorted in agony, and her mouth unleashed a shriek sharp enough to split the sky. Yet within that blinding white light, in that world-consuming agony, in the instant before your consciousness was utterly destroyed, you heard it. A voice, so faint, so clear. A child's voice, innocent and confused, pierced the darkness of eternity. Daddy? That voice was like a trickle of spring water through your soul, burning in sacred fire. Daddy. The white flame devoured everything. Pain, thought, regret, redemption. And in that purity, in that final flame, all returned to a warm, eternal stillness.